Our television station gives people to explain their problems, their difficulties, their information. If they need more information, we shall refer them to where they should get it.
We embrace dialogue, dialogue, and dialogue.
We want to exchange views, go deeper, advise where possible. Tell the world what is going on. Why is it that tactics have changed from removing governments militarily to removing governments through regime change tactics?
The issues here sometimes are elections in Africa. We as Kenyans or we as Africans view it as elections, but the foreign powers are viewing it as an entry strategy to enter into our affairs and get control of our resources and on the way we actually rule ourselves.
At the end of the day, I think it's just the greed of power that is bringing all these problems, even the Western influence that you're talking about, because you cannot accept to be used by Western powers unless there is a reason, and the reason is that you want to get power through any means, even if it means bringing a country or a nation down to its knees.
It is very shameful today for an African country to go and beg money for elections in its own country. It is very shameful. And then tomorrow you ask for the same people. Why are they asking for the record of your elections? Look at that. Kenyans, unite. And institutions in the world that don't benefit Kenyans, why do you keep yourself in them? There are those who think that with ICC gone away, we shall lack justice in Africa. No. Has justice not been there in Africa before? It has. Some people want to silence people. We are not going to keep quiet. France, watch your steps in Africa. You are dividing people in the African Union. If countries don't tell you, I am an individual, I've told you. The president, Salva Kiir, is the president of Republic of South Sudan.
So that should be respected.
Dr. Riek Machar, before he left,
was the vice
president.
So
therefore the two must now avoid these blue-suited men and talk for the sake of their country.
Correct.
Yes.
Very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining me. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where we get to look at the latest news from the continent of Africa. I am Mira Mogutu, and of course we are coming to you straight from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi, and we'll start with Sudan. And Sudan has declared a state of emergency in West Darfur, a state following intercommunal fighting that left at least 40 dead and thousands of people displaced. On Monday, the UN said that at least 40 people had been killed and more than 50 injured after violence broke out on Saturday between Arab groups and the non-Arab Masalit ethnic community in the city of Jenaina. On Monday afternoon, gunfire rang out in Al-Jamariq and Hay Al-Jabal, according to the United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Agency, OCHA. And then we go to Nigeria, where more than 1,800 inmates have escaped from a prison in Nigeria after it was attacked by gunmen. Officials have confirmed the attackers reportedly entered the prison yard in the southeastern town of Owerri by using explosives to blast the administrative block. 6 prisoners have reportedly returned, while 35 refused to escape. Police have accused the banned separatist group, the Indigenous People of Biafra, of carrying out the attacks. It has reportedly denied involvement. The Nigerian Correctional Service has confirmed that 1,844 inmates escaped from jail in the Imo state. Heavily armed men who stormed the Owerri Custodial Center in the early hours of Monday after arriving in pickup trucks and buses, the services said. A police spokesperson said the attackers carried rocket-propelled grenades, machine guns, explosives, and rifles. And then we head over, still stayed with Nigeria, and Nigerian authorities said an Air Force fighter jet lost contact days ago in Borno State while on a mission to support ground troops. The jihadist group Boko Haram released a video on Friday saying it shot down the jet, according to the intelligence group which monitors jihadist activity. Boko Haram released a video that showed what appeared to be a plane as it exploded mid-air. The video also showed the remains of a man who was described as the pilot of the plane by Boko Haram fighter who spoke in the local Hausa language. The Nigerian Air Force inscription on the plane matches the registration number of the Alpha jet which the Air Force said went missing during the combat on Wednesday. Air Force spokesperson Air Commander Edward Gabquet said in a statement that the Alpha jet lost contact with radar in Borno State while on interdiction mission in support of ground troops. The Air Force said Friday the plane, which had 2 crew members, might have crashed, adding the search and rescue efforts were ongoing. We go to Mozambique, and the Mozambican military is now saying it has regained full control of the coastal town of Palma more than a week after it was raided by militant Islamists. A significant number of militants were killed in the counter-offensive, an army spokesperson has confirmed. A state radio reported that residents who had fled were starting to return, some to homes that were looted. Dozens of civilians were killed and at least 11,000 displaced after the militants invaded Palma on the 24th of March. Head over to Chad, and the Transformational Party of Opposition leader Dr. Suchez Masra has described the upcoming April 11th election as a masquerade, accusing the regime of abuse. He presented the media with the remnants of ammunition that were fired by a police at one of his political rallies. And of course, the election in Chad is expected to happen on the 11th of April, as I have said there, and we will continue to bring you up to date even as the long-serving President Idris Deby seeks for another term. And then we head over to Cameroon for the second consecutive time. Heavily armed police dispersed an opposition leaders meeting held to propose reforms they say are needed to democratically change the more than 4 decades long rule of 88-year-old Cameroonian President Paul Biya. Opposition leaders, including 3 former presidential candidates, say the crackdown is the latest setback in the attempt to pave the way for peaceful transition of power from Africa's second longest ruling president. 7 opposition leaders say they were forcefully evicted from a meeting held in Yaoundé on Wednesday as they were pressing for reforms to rescue elections from the strong grip of Cameroonians' long-serving president. The leaders issued a formal statement on April 3rd. Among the attendees was Prince Michael Ngwese Ekoso, who is the president of the opposition United Socialist Democratic Party, and he said he took part in the meeting with hopes of easing tensions after allegations of election rigging. Opposition leaders say post-election tensions have risen after claims of fraud, which results are skewed towards Biya's Cameroonian People's Democratic Movement Party. Head over to Ethiopia, and the Eritrean forces have started withdrawing from Ethiopia's Tigray region in the north after fighting on the government side in a war against the region's fugitive leaders from the Tigray's People's Liberation Front. The United States, Germany, France, and other G7 countries called on Friday for a swift, unconditional, and verifiable withdrawal of the Eritrean soldiers, followed by a political process that is acceptable to all Ethiopians. That statement also urged the establishment of a clear, inclusive political process that is acceptable to all Ethiopians, including those in Tigray, and which leads to credible elections and a wider national reconciliation process. Ethiopia's foreign ministry announced the withdrawal, but in a rejoinder issued later on Saturday, it said the G7 foreign ministers' statement had not acknowledged key steps being taken to address the needs of the region. And then we head over to Somalia, and Somalia's leaders have failed to agree on the main agenda for a crucial electoral meeting, reflecting the unattended meeting between them. Publicly, they promised to try again on Tuesday, even as the country becomes sorely late on elections initially planned for February this year. The agenda-setting meeting brought together President Mohamed Farmajo and leaders of the 5 federal member states, plus the governor of Benadir region, the metropolis of Mogadishu. The 5 are Said Abdullahi Deni of Puntland, Ahmed Abdi Gorkor of Kalmuldug, Abdiaziz Hassan of Southwest, Ahmed Mohamed Islam Madobe of Jubaland, and Ali Gudlawe Hussein of Hirshabelle. Others in the meeting at the big tent, a large makeshift structure inside the heavily guarded airport perimeter, where Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble and the Mayor of Mogadishu, Omar Mohamed Felish. And then we go to Uganda. 6 citizens from Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania have filed a petition at the East African Court of Justice challenging the conduct of the January 2021 presidential election in Uganda. The petition filed earlier this month also asks the court to end the widespread violence and human rights abuses that erupted before the election, and some of which continue. The lead petitioner, Dr. Lina Zedriga Waru Abuka, is a Ugandan citizen, a human rights activist, and the secretary of the Ugandan National Committee for the Prevention and the Punishment of Crimes of Genocide, War Crimes, Crimes Against Humanity, and all forms of discrimination. She is also a deputy chairperson of the National Unity Platform, whose candidate in the election, Robert Changulanyi, aka Bobby Wine, claims he won the election. The Uganda Electoral Commission declared President Museveni winner with 58% of the votes in power since he has been in power since 1986, and he is expected to be sworn in May. And I will be following, that petition very, very closely and see how that will work out there in Uganda. We head over to the latest update on the Nile dispute. And foreign ministers from Egypt, Ethiopia and Sudan held talks in Kinshasa on Sunday over Addis Ababa's contested giant dam on the Nile, seen as a vital by Ethiopia and a threat by downstream Egypt and Sudan. These negotiations represent the last chance that the three countries must cease to reach an accord that is according to Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. And he said the accord should allow the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to be filled in time to begin operations in the coming months before the next rains. The dispute over the Grand Renaissance Dam, built across the Blue Nile, has been simmering for around a decade. Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi, who became the chairperson of the African Union in February, urged the foreign ministers as he opened the talks to launch a new dynamic. Last Tuesday, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed his country's concerns, warning nobody will be permitted to take a single drop of Egypt's water, otherwise the region will fall into unimaginable instability. That sounds like a serious threat that Ethiopia needs to take very seriously, all right? And then we head over to Sudan. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Monday spoke with Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok about the country's efforts to advance the peace process and political reforms in the country. Mr. Blinken welcomed the recent signing of the Declaration of Principles with the Sudanese People's Liberation Movement North, SPLM-N, one of the two remaining rebel groups that have not signed a peace deal with the government. The 28th March deal committed to integrating the rebel forces into the Sudanese military at the end of the transitional period. It also agreed on the separation between religion and state. On Monday, Mr. Blinken and Mr. Hamdok also discussed negotiations related to the row over Ethiopia's dam on the Nile, plus the commitment to reduce tensions over the Fashaga border area, whose ownership is disputed by Sudan and Ethiopia. And then we go to Tanzania, where Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan has hinted at major changes in the country's response to COVID-19 pandemic at a swearing-in ceremony for ministers on Tuesday. Last week, she announced plans for an expert task. Not last week, but today, sorry. For some reason, I was thinking today is on a Monday since we had a very long Easter holiday. But yes, she said that today while swearing in ministers there, and she announced plans for an expert task force to advise government on anti-coronavirus measures. This departs from the hard stance by her predecessor John Magufuli, who often dismissed the presence of the coronavirus in Tanzania. The president also hinted at major potential changes in the country's foreign policy, directing the new Foreign Affairs Minister Liberata Mulamula to set about mending international relations and saying no country can walk alone. Cooperation is the only way. I love her. Can you start with repairing, relationships here in Kenya? We need to have a peaceful brotherliness and not some passive aggression like we've been seeing coming from Tanzania, especially during the tenure of the late President Magufuli. So we hoping for better ties, I guess. I don't know, but we're positive over here. And still staying with Tanzania, and the new president, Suluhu, has announced that bans slapped on a number of media outlets by her predecessor who died last month are now to be lifted. And she's quoted as saying, "I understand there were media organizations that have been closed. Let them open and ensure they follow the law." And she said media rules, regulations, and penalties should be transparent so that everyone knows what to expect should they do wrong, and so that the punishment is proportionate. President Samia said government must not be seen to curtail media freedoms. She was speaking during the swearing in of new ministers and permanent secretaries. You know what? I really do love her. It's a new tone there in Tanzania. I don't know. President John Pombe Magufuli right now must be not very happy in his crave, but it appears, and we were talking about this, and perhaps it was okay. That is the end of our news, by the way. We were just talking after President John Magufuli died, and I think very little was known of Samia, so we really could not say much about her leadership style, and we wondered, would she follow on the footsteps of her predecessor there, or will she try to carve her own way of leadership and do things differently? And I read somewhere when we were talking about this, for those who know her, she's a person who actually listens and takes counsel very seriously, so she does not have a problem being advised or listening to other divergent views. And so we see her taking on already two things that President Magufuli was doing very differently from what we see Samia here is set to do. And the first one is how the late president handled the issue of coronavirus. We know even the Catholic Church had raised a lot of concerns about people dying there in Tanzania, and they even gave a number of the priests and nuns who had been affected, and some international schools had closed there in Tanzania, but that was kept under wrap because the media was banned from even mentioning anything to do with coronavirus. According to the late Pombe Magufuli, as far as he was concerned, coronavirus was non-existent, was not an eminent problem or a threat to anybody's life there in Tanzania. And so a lot has been happening since the media was banned from reporting on even these cases. It has been very difficult to know exactly what is happening there in Tanzania as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So now she's saying that Tanzania cannot isolate itself as an island in the fight against COVID-19. And she says she will, next week, she announces plans of an expert task force to advise government anti-coronavirus measures. I'm just excited that she's doing things differently, and I'm sure even Tanzanians, with all this confusion and all this news and what is happening across the world, I'm sure they really wanted to know how best could they take care of themselves there in Tanzania. And remember, even the last days of President Magufuli before he died, he seemed to have changed his tone when it came to coronavirus, but very slightly, just a little bit, but still. He did not give a very clear indication or a very strong leadership when it comes to the coronavirus there in Tanzania. So Suluhu is saying she's planning to put up a task force of, I think, professionals and scientists in the country who will advise the government on anti-coronavirus measures there. And also something else that is quite exciting, and that is the media freedom there in Tanzania, which we know the late Pombe Magufuli has really, he kept just closing in on the media freedoms in that country, and even leading to last year's elections in October. Even the international media houses were not allowed to go there and cover the elections. And for those who are allowed the permission, you cannot go any place without having a police with you or a government official with you. You cannot go anywhere, get any Tanzanians, views about the election or anything without a government official accompanying you. So it was heavily censored. And of course, the media in Tanzania is just heavily censored. And so now we see President Samia saying, I understand that there are media organizations that are being closed down. Let them open and ensure they follow the rule of law in the current day and age. And in the world and countries that we've seen progress in the world, media freedom is just one of the key things, because a free media and a strong media in a country, we're not called a fifth estate for nothing. There's a great role that media and civil service, a responsible civil service and a responsible media plays in a country, and acting, number one, as checks and balance to the sitting government. And so it's very important that we allow this space, especially here in Africa, where media has been muzzled in a lot of countries, and Tanzania was doing very badly when it came to the ratings of media freedom. So I am happy that President Samia understands and recognizes the role of a strong media and a free media in a country. But of course, she's urging, that they should practice, even as, she's allowing this, but they should practice with a lot of responsibility. Of course, freedoms comes with responsibility. So I agree with her in that regard. And she's saying now, what I found to be very interesting, she said that media rules, regulations and penalties should be transparent. It's not like the way the late Magufuli would wake up and say, I'm closing the Citizen, that is one of the media houses there, or I'm closing this. And without no explanation, he would not even say which rule they broke. So now she's saying the rules, the regulations, the penalties should be transparent, and so that everyone knows what to expect should they do wrong. I think that is quite important, and so that the punishment is proportionate. So you should understand, if you're practicing, if you're practicing journalist or a media house in Tanzania, you should know if you do this, that will be contravening the media laws in the country and the constitution of Tanzania. So this is what you should expect as a penalty to that. So she's saying this thing should be made transparent, and so I'm really, really excited. And she also added that the government must not be seen to curtail media freedoms. And she was speaking, of course, during the swearing in of new ministers. I don't know if she'll be able to keep some of those ministers that worked with the late President Magufuli. I don't know if she'll inherit some of them who perhaps still hold very strong views and leadership, mindset of the late president. I don't know if she'll be able to keep some of them, or she's just injecting a new blood into the leadership there in Tanzania. That will help her in foreseeing these new things and this new leadership that now she is leading there in Tanzania, that will bring some change, as we have seen here. So this is quite very interesting. She has completely departed. Well, we don't know about other things. But after the burial of John Pombe Magufuli, the next day she fired the port manager, general manager there, who had been accused of corruption, but he was still working under Pombe Magufuli. So that was the first casualty. He was gone, and now they're carrying out the investigations there. And now we see how. So I think that she's a completely different person from John Pombe Magufuli, and we've seen that even in Africa. When you look at people who are, of course, they didn't die, and then the vice president became president, because I think, for Tanzania, it's a unique situation how President Samia became president. But we saw presidents whose predecessors came to power and perhaps endorsed them, like in the case of Botswana, in the case of Angola. We saw Ian Khama when he left, and he handpicked Mokgweetsi Masisi, who is the president right now. And he thought that Masisi would follow his footsteps. Masisi went and became his own man, and until now, Ian Khama had to leave the party and went and joined the opposition. And so there has been a tug of war, because he was thinking, I had picked you and placed you in this position. How is it that now you don't want to do what I would like for you to? Because I think Ian imagined that Mokgweetsi Masisi will be his lapdog. It did not happen like that, and Masisi went and carved his own leadership, ways, and became his own man and made his own policies. And he was just a different person out of his predecessor. And also in Angola, we've seen what is happening there. With the current leadership and the previous one, who's now, remember Dos Santos, before this other leader came, and he picked he handpicked the current president, and then now the current president is going after, his predecessor on matters corruption, because we know that family, Dos Santos, was quite corrupt. His daughter is the richest woman in Africa, and when you see how she has accumulated this wealth, so Lorenzo is going after this family, but he handpicked the current president. So we've seen that not working very well. As I said, Suluhu was not handpicked by the late Pombe Magufuli, but a lot of people, I would have assumed that because she worked under Magufuli as the vice president, so perhaps she had the same leadership, style as Pombe Magufuli, and now she's just coming out to be her own person there, which I think is quite refreshing. Yes, and I think being a woman, she knows that she has to do perhaps more than the man. She has to show that she is working. She has to deliver. And I don't want to play gender cards here, but we know in many situations, women seems, when it comes to certain things that are perceived to be, to be biased towards the men, a woman, if she gets in that position, then she has to work twice as much to prove that she can lead, she can do it. So I think she is feeling that pressure. I don't know if she is, but I remember when she made that speech, and she said that, in case you're wondering, for those who are wondering, will a woman be able to lead Tanzania? And she said, yes. The one speaking in front of you right now is the president of Tanzania. She's only, by gender, she's a woman. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. But she is the president, and she is in full control of that country. So let's just see how Samia, will keep working, and if at all she'll keep surprising us with a lot of these things and policies. Maybe she'll be changing there that John Magufuli had in place. He must be turning now in his grave, and I don't think he's very happy, and I'm sure she will get a lot of pushback, especially from the loyalists there at CCM party. I'm sure she'll get a lot of pushbacks there. So let's see how that will play out for her. And I'll be following her very, very keenly, and I'm just excited to see what else President of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, will be having in store, what kind of changes she will be introducing to the people there in Tanzania, and for her recognizing that Tanzania is not an island. So there's no way the rest of the world is on a panic and is dealing with a pandemic that is claiming lives upon lives across the world. And then in Tanzania, you want to tell us nothing is going on. So she's saying Tanzania is not an island. So now she will set up a task force that will advise the government on anti-coronavirus measures. I hope it's not too late for Tanzania, and I hope that President Suluhu will encourage more transparency in how the country is dealing with that when it comes to the numbers there. I hope that now she will engage in the measures, and people will start getting tested, and things will be made public and very transparent, because the World Health Organization had even encouraged President Magufuli earlier on in the year, because the last time they updated the figures was last year in April, a year ago. Right? And so World Health Organization has been encouraging Tanzania, please, we're in this together, all of us. So there's no way. So I'm happy. So we're just hoping that there'll be a lot of transparency, and the media in Tanzania will be allowed to do its job to let us know what is happening there in Tanzania as far as COVID-19 and other important issues are concerned. So I think it's a new day in Tanzania, and I'm excited for it. Okay. And so, all right, very well. So this story of inmates who escaped a prison in Nigeria is quite interesting, and heavily armed men stormed the Owerri custodial center in the early hours on Monday. After arriving in pickups and buses, the prison services there said, and they were able to free 1,800 inmates, and about how many of them came back? I don't know, 35 refused to escape, and 6 prisoners have reportedly returned. I think they should be pardoned. The 35 that refused to escape, and the 6 that returned, went and then came back. I think that perhaps they need a presidential pardon. But this goes to show you, I cannot even begin to tell you, should this even happen? Like, how does this even happen? The people of Nigeria are not safe in their farms. they will be kidnapped. The people in Nigeria are not safe walking around. Even those who have been arrested and are serving time in the jails, they're not safe, even in those jails. So I don't know. The level of insecurity now is even crippling in Nigerians. Jails there, and they're accusing the Biafran, the indigenous people, according to these reports. I don't know if you're watching me and you're from the indigenous people of Biafra. I don't know what you have to say about this. Those are allegations that have been made. I don't know what is really happening there, but about 1,844 inmates escaped from the jail in the Imo state, and that is according to the Nigerian Correctional Service, and the number has been confirmed. Quite interesting. And of course, the insecurity that has been ongoing in Mozambique. Right now, the government is saying that people can come back to their homes who had been displaced. About 11,000 of them had been displaced by the militants there in the Palma region in Mozambique. It's a coastal town, just closer to Cabo Delgado. And so they're being asked to go back to their homes. I don't know if they will go back, because so far the way Mozambique has handled this crisis has been really wanting. So the United States said, offered to come and train Mozambican forces. I hope that will make a difference, but let's see how that will play out. And so now they are telling the people there to return. I don't know if I was in Mozambique. I don't know if I will return. I don't know, because when you hear the horror stories of the people who survived the massacres and the killings there, it's quite heart-wrenching. And in Cameroon, heavily armed police dispersed opposition leaders meeting held sometimes back last week, who were proposing reforms they say are needed to have a democratical change there in Cameroon, because President Paul Biya has now ruled for about 40 years. Only 40 years. President Paul Biya is 88 years old, and it is just the other day I was telling you, they re-elected the Speaker of the House, who is 81 years old, of Parliament, and then of Senate is 87. I don't know. It's like a nursing home of some sorts. When they meet, I'm sure they have tea and they sleep, they take naps, because how can they serve the people? All his cabinet is just just old people, and I have nothing against old people, but come on now, it doesn't make no sense. 88 years old, President Paul Biya, and so the opposition was meeting to try to chat and discuss how Cameroon can be more democratic. First of all, what are you talking about democracy when President Paul Biya is still in power? We saw what he did to the official opposition leader, Samuel, what is his name? Kamto. Was it in 2019 after that election? And we saw how he was handled in 2018, yes, in 2018. And he was taken to jail in 2019. And I think they released him some times back. Was it last year? No, the other year, in 2019, right? During that national dialogue that President Paul Biya had with the people from Anglophone and some stakeholders there, which bore no fruit. And it was, I think, the most useless national dialogue I've ever seen, because the key players are not included and were not factored in. The people who have a problem with the government, the leadership there was not factored in and were not even part of that meeting. So it's quite ridiculous there. Elvis Eyong, you're saying, Miriam, the people of former British Cameroon, aka Ambazonia, had got to support and administration from the people of Biafra. We need justice for the peace and the gold of Guinea. Okay. Man, good afternoon from Biafra. Okay, so now, Wilg, your name is Wilg, man. Is that your name? Okay, so tell me, the people who escaped from the prison there in Nigeria, in Imo State, the government there is reporting, there has been some claims and allegations, it's not confirmed, that the people who participated in these attacks were from the indigenous people of Biafra. Could you confirm if that is true or not, and let us know what is happening there in Nigeria? And a whole 1,844 prisoners were able to escape from prison. Well, 6 of them came back, but 35 refused to leave. Tell me what is happening there in Nigeria. Are these allegations true, or it's just why are they? Who did it, if at all? the government has established who actually carried out these attacks in that prison. And Eritrea forces have started withdrawing from Ethiopia's Tigray region in the north after fighting on the government side. So after massacring the people of Tigray, now the Eritrean soldiers are going back, and this is after it was discovered. Remember, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had been denying about the involvement of the Eritrean soldiers, the involvement of Somali soldiers there in the Tigray region, and now after he was outed and they were, a fact, and they were undisputed, evidence to show that Eritrean soldiers had been fighting there. He came out and said, you know what, yeah, it's true. I had borrowed some soldiers from Isaias Afwerki, and they've been helping me in killing the people of Tigray and committing these atrocities. So he actually, he acknowledged the presence there of Eritrean soldiers. And so the G7 and other leaders, the United States, Germany, France, and other G7 countries called on Friday for a swift, unconditional, and verifiable withdrawal. Like, we really need to see these soldiers move out of the Tigray region. We need to see that, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and then we need to see that credible elections and a wider national reconciliation process is taking place there in Ethiopia. And what I'm just wondering is, will they just let Abiy Ahmed just get away with these massacres? Why am I not hearing of sanctions? Why am I not hearing of government officials that are being banned, of Ethiopia being put on some kind of list? Why? Why does he get away so easily when we've seen images of atrocities and killings and maimings that have been happening there, being carried out by the soldiers? And now we hear Eritrea, the people of Tigray. Why does he have to get away so softly? What is it with Ethiopia and the Western world? I know you gave him the Nobel Peace Prize, which I think by all standards he has violated, and dishonored the name, or that prize, because of what has been happening in Ethiopia. But why does he get away so easily? You just tell him to remove, for Eritrea's army to go back to Eritrea, and the Ethiopian army to retreat, and then what? He gets away just like that? Because when you see the numbers of people who have been displaced from their homes, from the Tigray region, you hear of the horror stories of women being raped and children being killed, and he gets away with that. I was hoping somebody already was bringing his name on the United Nations Security Council, was thinking of sanctions, was thinking of ICC and stuff like that. Why does he? That is the problem I have. Maybe this is a conversation I will have together here with the rest of the panelists I usually have early in the morning. I want to know what is so special with Abiy Ahmed that his government can do all these things and he gets to get away with it. It is unacceptable, and it is just a double standard. All right, that is just, it's just out of order. All right, I saw sir Aaron how you're saying Paul Biya is too old to change. Yeah, and the opposition there is meeting, talking about wanting a democratic republic of, some democracy there in Cameroon. It will never happen as long as Paul Biya is the president there in Cameroon. It's just ridiculous. All right. So you, Mr. Mann, you're saying that IGP, what is that? That is the police, can't conclude just in 24 hours that IPOB are responsible for the attack carried out in Imo State. So you're saying they've not even done the investigations yet, so that is too early to conclude, because IPOB has come out and has said, hey, this attacks has nothing to do with us, so don't drag our names into it. All right, so those are just allegations. So perhaps by tomorrow when I come back, we will know who for sure carried out these attacks in that prison that saw 1,844 inmates, ran away. That was a mighty prison break. 6 of them came back and 35 refused to leave. And I said, you know what, this 35 plus 6, I think they deserve a presidential pardon at this point. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. I'm Miriam Oguta. I'll see you here tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye for now.
must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.